This segment is going to be on editing your images in Photoshop and Lightroom. We're going to take an image from here to something more dramatic like here. So let's get started. So the first thing to do is to bring our images into Lightroom. Once we've downloaded our images, we're going to import them into Lightroom, and we're going to go to Library, and at the bottom left of the screen we're going to click Import. On the next screen, we're going to navigate to where we saved our images. And here you can assign any keywords you'd like to the images. Once you've got your keywords assigned, you can go ahead and click Import at the bottom right hand of the screen here. You can see the status of the images importing into Lightroom at the top left of the screen. Once they're imported, we're going to go to the Develop module by clicking here. Once we're in the Develop module, let's look at getting rid of the sensor spots. So if you have anything common that you want to make an adjustment for in the beginning for all of your images, this is an easy way to do it. By default, we're selected on the first image already. We're going to hit Command or Control A to select all of the images, including that image. We're going to zoom in by hitting Command or Control plus to our sensor spots here. If I click on the spot healing brush here, I can resize my brush to the size that I need it to be with the bracket keys. The left bracket key will make it smaller and the right bracket key will make it larger. And I'm just going to click and drag across those sensor spots, and you can see that they're gone. If I want to see a visual of where it's resampled from, I can hit a shortcut H and it will show that. If I want to readjust where it's sampling from, I can do that by clicking and dragging on it. I can hit H again to make that disappear. We'll click on Fit to fit it back to the screen. And now that I've made that adjustment, it has done it to all of the images in this collection. Let's look at adjusting for distortion. So with this image, I've used a fisheye lens. I can easily adjust for that distortion by coming down here to Lens Corrections. First, I'll click Remove Chromatic Aberration, and then I'm going to click on Enable Profile Corrections. You can see that it immediately corrected for the fisheye distortion. I still have a bit of a distortion though that I'd like to fit. It still looks like the building is falling backwards. So we're going to go down to the next tab here under Transform. I can use some of the auto ones here, level or vertical, and that's corrected for the vertical distortions. If I'm not happy with that, I have adjustments that I can manually do here for correcting for those distortions. I can scale it a bit larger, and I can even move the offset to keep it centered. I think it looks a bit stretched out, so I'm going to take the aspect and bring it in a bit taller to what was more true to the eye. I did expose for HDR on these images, and I haven't selected the remaining images in this series, but I don't have to make those adjustments all over again if I didn't have the auto sync on and had them selected. In order to do that, I would select the first one, and then holding the Shift key, select the last one, and then I'll click on Sync. I'm going to check all and synchronize. And now you can see it has done it to each one of the images in that series. Okay, now let's look at giving your images a little bit more pop. So let's start here with this one. First of all, we'll go ahead and correct for our lens distortion. Remove chromatic aberration. Enable profile corrections. Here it didn't recognize the lens, so I'll go ahead and plug in the make. It'll do its best guess. It's not correct. So we'll come down to the 17 to 40 millimeter lens that I was using. And you can see before and after. It's made a little correction there. We're going to go down to Transform. So let's start by clicking on the vertical. We'll get that vertical correction made. And then I think I want to bring the scale in just a bit. And we're going to click on the crop tool. And if you don't want it to hold that aspect ratio, you can right click on that and uncheck Constrain Aspect Ratio. Let's bring that down just a bit. And this up just a bit. We'll hit enter to commit that. We've got some lost areas down here. We're going to fix that in Photoshop, so we're not going to worry about that right now. Let's go up to the top under the basic adjustments. And the first thing we're going to do is take the highlight slider all the way over to the left, the shadow slider all the way over to the right, and then we're going to hold down our option key while we move to the right with our whites until we see some of that white coming back. And then we're going to hold down the option or alt key again and click on the black slider until we start seeing some blacks come in all the way to the left. We're going to take the clarity up just a little bit. Now that we've made those adjustments, I can really see some sensor spots here. So we'll go ahead and make that adjustment with the healing brush here. Click on that one, that one. Now that looks pretty clean. So we're going to right click on the image at the bottom and then edit in Photoshop. We're going to edit a copy with Lightroom adjustments. Now that it's in Photoshop, let's try to fix these areas at the bottom. We're going to get our magic wand tool. The shortcut for that is W. We're going to click here on the first part, and then we're going to go to the right, holding our shift key, click that one, and now we have both of those selections made. We're going to go to edit, fill, and make sure that the content says content aware, fill, click OK, and it's going to fill in those areas for us. We'll hit Command D to deselect that. Next thing I'm going to do is sharpen it up just a bit. We're going to hit Command J to make another layer. Then we're going to go to Filter, Other, High Pass. I'm going to bring that slider all the way to the left and start dragging it to the right until I start seeing some definition there. Think about right there. We'll hit OK. Now we'll change the blend mode to hard light. So I'll zoom in a bit so you can see the difference. This is before and that's after. Let's go ahead and flatten the image by hitting Layer, Flatten. I can use the spot healing brush by pressing the letter J or clicking here and getting rid of some of these distracting areas here. I'm going to hit File, Save. Once you're back in Lightroom, all the edits that you made in Photoshop will be saved back here. And let's take it even a step further. We're going to give it a little bit more punch again. Same adjustments, shadows all the way to the right, highlights all the way to the left. Take our white slider, holding the option key until we see some whites back, and then our black slider until we see some blacks. And take up the clarity again. And then I'll also add, under the Effects tab, some post-crop vignetting. Looks a little harsh under Highlight Priority. I'll change it to Paint Overlay. That gives it a little bit more subtle touch. And that's about it. So now that we've made the adjustment to our image, we need to save it. And you don't really save in Lightroom, you have to export. So we're going to go to File, Export, and we're going to tell it where to save the image. Make a new folder for edits. You can rename the file, you can change the size of the file, you can do a lot of different things here, but I'm not going to make any other adjustments other than naming it. Click Export, and it exports that file. And now it's saved. So this is the image we started with. This is our edit. Once again, where we started and where we ended.